one more down with my man Sean Penny. Um, it's been a few years since we've had the opportunity to talk,
No doubt.
but I think we first met when I would have been in eighth grade, and you were probably in seventh grade at
Seventh grade.
Northeast Catholic,
Northeast
right?
Catholic. Yes, sir.
Practicing up there at St. Anthony's
Yes, sir.
um, every day after school, playing in
Mm-hmm.
the Catholic League up at Rand Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So we had a conversation a few days ago on the phone, and I mentioned, and I genuinely mean this. You were always somebody that I enjoyed playing with. I enjoyed blocking for. Uh, you know, Sometimes as players, you have guys who are standouts and they know they're standouts, and maybe that doesn't always come off the best way to the teammates.
Right.
Um, but you were always a stand up guy, and so maybe just so I'm excited about it. I'm excited to catch up and talk.
No doubt. No doubt.
Maybe just kind of start about where you grew up and your upbringing and just kind of your path to transitioning into football.
Well, I grew up on the east side of Youngstown off of Oak Street, and what kind of led me to football, as Ron mentioned earlier, my family is a football family. You can't walk around Youngstown without hearing something from JC, Window, Curtis, Wayne, and Orson. So it was like, every time I walked somewhere, it was like, you need to start playing football, because your uncle did this, your uncles did that. So, you know, from that point, it was like, I felt like I had to carry on the family lineage of playing football. You know what I mean? So, and it started. I mean, it started very young when my uncle was playing for East High. I would go to his games, and then from there he go to Miami. He went to Miami originally, and following him on TV. So therefore, he became my idol. I wanted to be like him. You know what I mean? Even though our physiques were different. He was a little guy, and I was a big guy, so I had to kind of find my way as far as being big. But and then from there, it was just I like you said, hooking up with you guys in seventh and eighth grade. I mean, before then it was playing football in the street, backyard, this and that, and then playing with you guys in seventh and eighth grade. It's like I looked up to you guys, and never wanted to let you guys down none whatsoever. So you guys made me rise to the occasion a little bit.
So did you was that your first playing in seventh and eighth grade, or were you
Well,
playing little
well,
league?
no, I started. I'll skip the whole thing.
No, that's all right.
Um, Playing for the Camel Little Red Devils.
Oh wow, okay.
So I mean, I started there in third grade, and then I don't know if you guys know Jimmy Singaris. Jimmy Singaris' parents kind of like took me in, which allowed me to play over there. Um, and then from there, I ended up playing at with the Eastside Little Broncos behind East
Mm-hmm.
High School. And I mean, Eastside Little Broncos, like I'm sure, like any other little league, had their guys that stood out a lot, and they kind of pushed me as well. I mean, I remember playing for the 105. There was this one kid that where like there was nothing that I could do to get in front of him, and it was just like it just fueled me to be like, hey, I have to get in front of him, and they kind of like bench me. I felt, and then there was a guy that I used to look up to as well coming up, Sean Patton,
Mm-hmm.
coming from Camel Little Red Devils. That name was always around. So after they benched me for the for the Broncos, the coach took us to see him one night and asked us how many times. I mean, how many touchdowns you gonna get? Naturally trying to raise the competition amongst the people. And at that time, I wasn't carrying the ball; I was playing defense. And I told him I was like, man, I'm gonna score 3 touchdowns. So from that point, it was just like, caught a couple interceptions and took them back, and then I got a kickoff and took it back. So I was trying to show them that they weren't going to keep me down. So I mean, and it just fueled from there. And then and then like I told you, Dallas, I end up having a childhood friend named Norman Brown. He was playing football for the Northeast Catholic a year before I was. So, and then I'm like, I want to go play with Norman and go to school with Norman. So that led me to Northeast Catholic, and that's where I met you guys.
So Norman, I remember him in eighth grade, um, being able to throw the football.
Yeah.
Um, like he was just at that time, right?
Mhm.
Football, you weren't throwing the ball,
Mhm.
especially in Youngstown,
Right.
and especially at that level. And man, just the way the ball came off his hand, like he was so talented.
Yeah.
Um, and then he didn't keep playing with us. I think he just started playing basketball like his maybe sophomore junior
Yeah.
year. I think.
I think he played. If I can recall, I think he played freshman football, and
Yeah,
then, like
yeah,
you said, end up playing basketball from there.
yeah,
That became his passion.
yeah, yeah. Camel, that would have been a huge steal if Camel would have got you.
Hey, they tried. They was wanting me
I'm sure they
to
did.
want me to move over there and everything. So
Um, and then so at Northeast, I'm trying to think back. So in seventh grade, um, at that time it was like a 155 weight limit,
hmm
right, to carry the ball.
hmm
Were you carrying the ball at that time?
yes,
Or we,
I,
okay,
I was, but like I told you, Eddie Palmer was in front of
Eddie
me
Paul.
at that
Oh
point in
god.
time. You know what I mean? So again, I had to get in where I fit in because
Ron, do you know Eddie Palmer? Do you know that name?
No, I haven't heard of that. And
Okay, Google it.
hey, yeah, Eddie Palmer, he was a good player, but
The one thing I remember, and we can cut this out, but the one thing I remember would be eighth grade, and you remember we weren't allowed to wear like wristbands, we weren't allowed to wear gloves, we weren't
right.
allowed to wear anything, anything. Okay, and so we're going into like I don't know if it was the playoffs or something. And do you remember this? So like Keneally and Angaro, they're like, all right, what, Monday you can wear gloves and you can start wearing all that stuff. And so do you remember what happened?
I do not.
So we used to run 2 laps before every practice, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Eddie Palmer came out like the ultimate warrior. He had like straps and bands on his arms, on his knees, on his helmet. And so he's sprinting the laps and all those like ribbons and bandanas like like streaming behind him. I mean, it was just chaos. It was chaos. But that was Eddie.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Um
you know, um, when you talk about some of that family lineage, I do a little bit of digging and researching, and
Okay.
nuggets come across here and there. Um, uh, I was reading up, came across your grandmother's information, and
Okay.
it stated that she was a great track athlete back in her day, and
Yep.
then you come from this long line of athletic uncles, and football is in the blood, it's in the family.
hmm
Um, was there a air of competition amongst the Penny family?
Um, I wouldn't say that there was a like competition because they were at so many, the tiers of their age. Um, but no, there was a lot of trash talking though. I would say that.
Well, when I say that in that way, just in terms of having older uncles in front of you and
hmm
already established football players, are they
hmm
kind of giving you that inside game of how to compete, how to prepare, and get ready to play, or did they just support what you were doing and let you develop in your own way?
No, I mean from time to time. Well, mainly my uncle JC would be the one to pull me aside and talk to me and give me some game. You know what I mean? But other than that, it was just supporting what I was out there doing. You know, I mean, they were proud. So other than that, Uncle JC. I mean, even to this day, he'll give me a phone call from time to time, and we'll talk football, and in Ohio State. So he and my Uncle Wayne were, in my corner a lot.
Now, going through that trek of trying to establish yourself, and like some of the other guests and myself included, I guess it's just a function of getting introduced to football. Most people end up starting out at one position and then transition into another until they find that athleticism and
Mm-hmm.
then their sweet spot. So, as you're trying to ascend and make your own mark, you know, when you're looking at what your uncle did in front of you, the heights that he was able to reach, and the name and reputation that he was able to craft for himself, is that a struggle for you? Not hitting that stride yet and getting that shine.
Nah, I embraced it
Yeah.
because it was one of those to where, like, when I said trash talk, that was one of the things I used to tell him. I was like, man, I'm gonna make people forget about you, man, because I'm tired of everywhere I go, everybody's talking to me about you. You know what I mean? And then even finding my stride, it was one of those, not, I mean, trying not to like let people keep me in a box, basically, because I'm a big dude. I mean, me running the ball was playing tailback was abnormal. You know what I mean? I had somebody tell me, like, not too long ago. They looked at me and was like, "Man, so you play like linebacker or offensive line?" And I looked at him like, the audacity of you. You know what I mean? And told him, "Nah, I played tailback." He looked at me. He was like, "Man, you a unicorn." So, it was just not trying to like let people keep me in that box, because they would be quick to put me at fullback or something, like even freshman year they played me at fullback. You know what I mean? And it was just like, all right, I gotta do something at fullback in order to respect, what I have to bring to the table.
So your freshman year, would Chester Weathers have been the tailback? If you were a fullback, you guys probably mixing it.
Nah, that was Mike Eccles and Sean
Oh,
Conway.
oh,
Yep,
wow. Okay.
yep. So I mean, and we ran our belly left, belly right, and our trap, but it wasn't like, in the 2 point. So,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. What
so
um what did you guys do your freshman year? How was your record?
I would say about 500.
Okay.
I mean, when it wasn't nothing special,
Okay.
but there were a lot of personalities on the on the team at that time though too. So, because I mean,
So go
like
ahead.
it was David Mossy, uh,
Mm,
Ray Humphrey, Lamar played. Who else was on there? But like, just to name a few, So, and some of them guys would rather play basketball than play football. So,
yeah, there was a strong basketball group, strong group of guys that came through to play basketball. Like there was a good run of talent um through that time.
oh, here go a name for you, Kevin Pullen. Kevin Pullen played on that on that team too.
Yeah, man. It so you know, what did you your sophomore year, I think, if I remember, I
Mhm.
think you got like a thigh you were doing special teams, playing, um, and then you got like a deep thigh bruise, I think, right?
I that's what I was telling you. I fractured my fibula,
Oh,
and
okay.
my mom was telling me like, man, hey, you getting up and going to school, you better walk on that. And I'm like, man, that hurt. It hurt. So I ended up going to the doctor and finding out that it was a fractured fibula.
And then so you were done for the year at that point, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure was.
Um, and then I guess so like going in, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
Okay, so you kind of answered it in terms of, with the family dynamic, right? Having some expectations with your uncles,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Ursuline, a great lineage and tradition of having featured tailbacks,
Mm-hmm.
somebody that is the guy,
Mm-hmm.
somebody that is not only the guy there, but typically, a guy in the area,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, there's so many. Did 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 you see yourself as, either junior year, probably junior, because I'm assuming after the success you had as a junior, your expectations were already there as a senior, but kind of going into that junior year, um, did you see yourself as being one of the guys and being a feature back, or were you focused more? Because I think you started safety also, right? Like
Yeah.
that was okay.
Safety. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm gonna say no, I did not. Um, because again, there were people in front of me. I mean, like, I didn't never ended up knowing what happened to Jay Holland, but Jay Holland was in front of me at that point. You know what I
I
mean?
forgot about that. Yeah.
Um, and it was like it was just and the thing about it was I was hanging around him, so therefore it was one of those to where I'm gunning for your spot, and I've carried this throughout my life to as far as sports go, to where like I'm keeping the guy close to me that I'm challenging, or they don't even know that I'm challenging, but I'm challenging you and you don't know it. You know what I mean? To
Hmm.
where like there were some things that when I was watching Jay, I'm like, yeah, okay, I can I can get up in there if I get a chance, it's gonna be curtains. You know what I mean? I did feel that way, and then I kind of want to give another special shout out to one of those guys that you were saying that is the guy. Dallas, I'm sure you can recall this. There was a guy that was the guy that held records that would come to Ursuline during our practices and run on the field like he was the Heisman Trophy winner and this and that. Do you recall who that guy is?
I do not.
Kevin Ellerby. I want to thank
Mm,
Kevin Ellerby,
yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Because Kevin Ellerby also threw gas on the fire for the way he used to talk to me. And I told him at one point in time I was going to break his record. You know what I mean? Because I mean, although it was just fun and games with him running out on the field, I'm like, okay, because again, how you said, like, I was humble, unless I was in the locker room talking to one of the talking to the homies or whatever. But I didn't think he was being humble, man. You know what I mean? So I was just like, all right, I kind of put a target on his back, and he didn't know it.
Yeah, and I think, to me, I don't want to I don't want to say like you were ever meek, because that's not what I'm saying, but I think like for me, I always felt like if I have to tell you how good I am, then I'm really not good enough.
Hmm.
And that's always the vibe I got from you, like, and I'll give you an example. So it's funny you say that name, and I don't know if I should say this or not, but like I always felt like, so you were talking about Jay,
Hmm.
okay? Great running back, had certain games where he would take over a game and and
Hmm.
and and so on. But I also felt like when the lights got big, sometimes there are guys when the lights get big, it's too bright for them.
Understandable.
And I always felt like, and so we can get into this. Like I felt like for you, as a player, and then going back and watching that highlight film and really thinking about things with my coach hat on and being a little bit more mature, I
Hmm.
feel like that Warren Harding game for you was like the coming out party of your junior year. And I could be wrong for your mind.
Hmm. I mean,
but that's
go ahead.
no, that's just kind of my view. So my point is, like, in probably the biggest game of that season that we had so far against Warren Harding,
Mm-hmm.
that's when like you step your game up.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like the first game, honestly, uh, when we played against Sharon,
Mm-hmm.
again, Chester Weathers was back there playing tailback, and it was like once I got the feeling of scoring that touchdown, it was like, man, I gotta have more. You know what I mean? And it was just like having your name in the paper. Cause I kind of joke with my son right now. I'll be like, man, you ain't trying to get your name in the paper. I mean, like, and I'm gonna have to credit Mike Eccles for that too. That was another person that kind of fueled. It was always, I mean, because he ran his mouth a lot, as you know. so it was like, just everybody around me, and me knowing that I can do it and not being put in a position to do it. So when we played Sharon, and I got that first taste, first taste of scoring a touchdown. It was like, man, I need more of this. So that's where I feel like my coming out party was.
Mm-hmm.
And that I'm listening to what you're saying, and there's some keys in there, and I think sometimes when we're in the midst of talking and describing, um, so part of what you're saying is, you have a guy like a Kevin Ellerby who he was fantastic, and
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know definitely a lot of great running backs coming out of Ursuline all throughout Coach Angle's tenure. Just the school in general has always produced great runners. But one, you always need that measuring stick, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's either somebody that you look up to or somebody that you're watching that may be getting a certain level of attention or accolades.
Yeah,
And if you're a competitor, it's not that you're jealous, it's not that you're hateful, but you want to make sure that if you have a certain belief in yourself that, okay, I'm gonna show you that I deserve to be mentioned in the same breath as some of these other guys that you're mentioning.
yes,
Two, for our era of playing, I remember in high school, we're all tipping 160
mm-hmm.
during that time, and before going to college, we always considered a guy, if we ran against a guy that was 185 as a back, we thought that was a big back.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
for you, you're blessed with that size. When did you feel like you were able to harness, the gifts, the size, and the talent, and then the work ethic, and use it to your advantage to do what you wanted to do within the framework of the Ursuline system?
When I saw Jerome Bettis playing for Notre Dame, for me, total package of what you just described. Big dude, got the feet, got the work ethic, and he going out there and getting it done. That's the reason I wore number 6 in high school, because I felt like watching him put that all together for me. You know what I mean? And then, I mean, the work ethic. It's like we had Coach Angle and Coach Smith. Like, Coach Smith did not accept anything less in my eyes. You know, so, and again, I didn't want to let, when I was a junior, didn't want to let the seniors down, didn't want to let my coaches down. So I mean, like, every opportunity I could get to be in the weight room, I mean, play basketball, do something that could help me, um, you know, and in my sport, I was doing it. So
Um, that your whole junior year, uh, you make All Steel Valley as a junior.
mhm.
Um, did that kind of solidify your mindset? You know, whether there's any question whether you want to be on the defensive side, offensive side. Did that solidify where you wanted to be?
Um, I'm gonna say like no, because I knew that's where I should have been. That I wanted to be all my life. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like again, like my uncle JC was it to me the man. You know what I mean? So there was nothing less for me other than being a tailback. I mean, to be honest with you, Dallas, when I was playing outside linebacker or safety, I didn't want to be back there doing that. You know what I mean? I wanted to tote the rock. Um, so, but I mean, I would go over there and play again. I'm out there with my homies. I'm out there with my boys. I will do whatever I got to do to go out there and get the win. You know what I mean? So they needed me to play safety. I play safety. So, but nah, I always wanted to carry the ball all the time.
One of the things that I vividly remember, and we could talk about this, was I think I got hurt week 5, and then the following week we play um, Fitch, and it's at YSU, and we talked about this on the phone, and I actually got this for film, couple plays on it.
Okay.
Like as a player, watching it from the sideline, I vividly remember the physicality of you running the football, and I always took that into my coaching career,
Okay.
like from the standpoint of, I just remember, I don't know if it was counter trey or one of the lead, whatever, it ends up being
It was. I'm sorry. It was
yeah, go ahead.
tossed to the short side of the field.
There you go. Whatever it was, it ends up you being one-on-one with some poor DB.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of the game, like, it's like, okay, boom, impact, and everybody's like, you hear that,
Mm-hmm.
then the guy's on his heels,
Mm-hmm.
then he's catching, and then pretty soon you're popping a long run.
Mm-hmm.
And like that resonated with me in terms of just how an individual, in this case just runs through somebody's face mask and changes a game.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually somebody's got to give.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that mentality as a runner?
I mean, that started that started I would say my sophomore year when again Jay Holland, we would be hitting the sled. You know what I mean? And then I don't know if you recall that pop that used to happen when you used to hit that sled. And once you got that pop out of that sled, it was like, all right, yeah, I'm there. I'm there. I'm getting it. You know what I mean? So then it was like, when it came to game time, I mean, that's what I would do. Um, I later in life started to develop uh, this thing. I would say the first and second quarter, I'm gonna let you feel it. Third and fourth quarter is cruise control because you ain't gonna want no more. So that's I mean, when I step back and start watching, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much what it was. And if you notice, I said toss to the short side of the field because after carrying the ball a couple times, I didn't want to run to the wide side at all. And I think that game too, we were like down on the field, and I forget who used to call plays back then.
Well, I think it would be maybe it all went through Coach Angle.
I mean, but whoever, there was a point in time during the game that you're speaking of that I was down on the field up to the booth, and I was like, "Hey, man, like sort of like Ezekiel Elliott with the feed me.
Zeke,
I'm
yeah.
over here like this, like tell, hey, keep calling it. We can keep going, you know." So
Yeah, no, and that's I mean that is the one point, and I think where from from a line perspective, I guess when you're a player, right, you got that tunnel vision, and you live in the world that you live in, and then
Mhm.
that's where I physically saw a running back imposing their will on a defense and basically just taking the game over.
Right.
You know, um, what so with that success that you have as a junior,
Mhm.
um, what's kind of your mindset going into your senior year?
We were
At
we were in business law class, Coach Angle, and I had that class with Mike Eccles, and we happened to be looking at Ursuline's record book, and we up there talking to Coach Angle or whatever, and Mike decides like, hey, I want to get the school interception record, which was 10. And then I was like, all right, I'm going for Ellerby's record. And at that point in time, and so going into my senior year, my main focus was breaking that rushing record. So and then Mike with the 10 interceptions. So it was like, man, he's steady talking over here. So I gotta I gotta constantly make sure I'm bringing my game every Friday.
Yeah, and then throwing them touchdown passes on toss pass, right?
I mean, we ain't gotta talk about that part. I used to love that, man. I used to love it.
When you come off that junior year and you're stepping into that senior year, you set this goal for yourself.
Yeah.
Are you already getting some of the looks and the college attention and the murmurings of being able to move on to that next level?
I am. I am, but I mean, at that point in time, like I told Dallas, man, when I started playing football, that was never my goal of gaining a scholarship. Like most guys nowadays, when they start lacing them up, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna try to get a scholarship, this and that, NILs or whatever. And I told Dallas, like, man, every Friday it was like I'm going out with my boys and playing football. That's all it was. And then to get a letter from a school talking about they want me to come was you know unexpected, and the icing on the cake at the end of the day.
And so I asked that question because you obviously end up with a tremendous season that year.
Mm-hmm.
But when you set a goal for yourself, and then you got to get through preseason
Mm-hmm.
scrimmages, and
Mm-hmm.
then that first game is always full of angst because it's the hottest time of the year. You've been practicing 2 a days and all of that. So what is that first game of your senior year like? What's the anticipation and that anxiety like for you the night before?
um it was, I mean, there really wasn't any angst about it. It was just, I'm gonna go out here, and I don't know, I think they had this our junior year. It was Friday Night Heroes. I think it was in the Vindicator or whatever. I was like, man, I'm gonna go for getting 100 yards because you would get your name in the paper, but then it depended on how many yards you would get that night to where you would be in the Friday Night Heroes. So I mean, that was mainly my goal for going in. Like, hey, I need to get my name in the paper and being a vindicator for Friday Night Heroes.
So what, being a Youngstown guy, the landscape looks a lot different now in terms
Mhm.
of local football. But I know for guys of our era and previous eras, the great motivator for us was seeing those guys in the all city pictures and in the all SBC pictures when they used to give the full body shots, and you see the poses. Those guys became our local heroes, our
Yeah.
local legends.
Mhm.
And then when it's your turn and your chance, you kind of just want to make that same type of mark. Like, okay, if I can play up to the level to make this, or I can win a bunch of games with some of my closest friends, then there's a level of satisfaction and accomplishment.
Mhm.
Um, so when those yards are starting to pile up, though, you know, what does start to creep into your head about what's next after that high school football?
Well, I mean, I did not really know where I could possibly go. You know what I mean? So, I would talk to various coaches throughout the school year and things like that. And then um whatever it whatever it was in my head, I wanted to go big. You know what I mean? And it was like, I mean, like I had like, again, Notre Dame because of Jerome Bettis. You know what I mean? Then um, watching Ty Wheatley, Michigan, watching Kajana Carter at Penn State. I mean, I'm like, hey, I want to like go there to, you know, hey, maybe I can go there and be one of those guys. You know what I mean? Um, and then there was Eddie George. And then again, he was my body type. Again, you know what I mean? And he went to Ohio State. I mean, he had his trials and tribulations when he first got there, but it all ended up panning out for him. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, this 6'3", 225, whatever guy, he can go down here and get it done. So, when I had the opportunity to, get offered a visit to go to Ohio State, I was all for it.
And then, my last inquisition in regards to those things that you just touched on, you know, with your uncle having already went through that process and attaining high level success as far as being a football player. Um, were there any was there any information that was passed along to you in terms of how to make your decision or things that you should be looking for, and what type of um, wording to kind of stay away from during that recruiting process? And just for clarification, when you have that prowess and you're garnering those attentions, everybody is saying everything that you want to hear, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then, as you may have experienced, I experienced, it's a different ball game once you arrive on campus and you got to compete again and reestablish yourself. But did you get any advice? Did you get any did you seek out any advice on how to navigate one, the star power that you're building,
Mm-hmm.
two, you know, picking out the right path that would be right for you?
I'm gonna say no, I did not. Um, you know, my mom. I grew up in a single parent household, and my dad was a worker. He worked most of the time. I mean, like when my uncles and stuff was going playing sports, my dad was working. You know what I mean? So when it came to the recruiting process, my mom nor my dad, I mean, and my uncle was not around because he was in California at that time. So, I mean, it was just us trying to navigate it ourselves the best way that we possibly could. But, and it was like, um, I told Dallas on the phone, I said that I probably would have took inventory a whole lot better than what I did now that I know what I know. But at that point in time, again, my mom, all she cared about is grades and making sure I was going to be all right wherever I went. You know what I mean? Football was it was secondary to her. She didn't really care about that. Um, so when it came to choosing a path, I was pretty much on my own. You know what I mean? Um, I would say my dad did chirp up and say that he wanted me to go to West Virginia. But I never like because I did end up taking a trip to West Virginia, and I was like, nah, that's not for me. And the only reason that he wanted me to go to West Virginia is because I don't know if you guys know this, but my uncle was supposed to go to West Virginia until Jimmy Johnson came through and offered a scholarship to go to Miami. So he kind of turned him down and went to Miami after that. So that's why my dad wanted me to go to West Virginia. But other than that, nah. I mean, I wish I had somebody to talk to me that knew the ins and outs of the recruiting process. You know what I mean? But it wasn't so much that. It was me and my mom kind of and my dad trying to navigate it, but not knowing anything at the same time.
Did was Coach Angle involved? I mean, I'm sure he's talking to whatever, talking about grades, providing film, and that type of thing. Was he involved in terms of what might be a good fit or not a good fit?
Not so much. No. I mean, I think that he was talking to coaches and stuff behind the scenes, but I don't ever recall us having like an in-depth conversation on,
Hmm.
what path that I should go, you know. Because trust me, I would have accepted everything, and when you're getting recruited and people know that you're getting recruited, everybody want to turn into an agent and things like that and try to tell you where you need to go. But it's like I no, we did not have in depth conversation. It was just I would he would lead the coaches to me or wherever class I was in, or pull me out of class, and I would talk to them there, or a meeting would get arranged at my house.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's about it.
Well, I want to circle back to one thing and just kind of talk about your senior year,
Okay.
because I think it's 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 310 carries, 2,038 yards, 21 TDs. Um, it's pretty good year, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Um, all Ohio, all state, player of the year in Division IV, all Northern Ohio. For some of us who remember this, right, All Valley Playbook player of the year, which was a big deal.
I'm looking at the picture right now.
There you go. Right,
Yeah.
right. First team SVC, so two-time All SVC player, which is two-time first team SVC player, which is pretty impressive. Um, and then I'm assuming I was looking through the one Ursuline book that has all the information in it, outstanding back and MVP. So I'd assume that those would be team awards.
They were.
Um, so I don't know. I've not been in that position in terms of being that feature guy, but that seems like everything that you would hope for in terms of everything working out the way that you would want it to.
Yep. I mean, everything, like you said, worked out well. I mean, and again, I did it with a group of friends. You know what I mean? So it was just like, hey, my homies helped me achieve those goals and get to where I wanted to be eventually.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I was looking at the JFK game, and something stood out to me. I didn't realize you guys played JFK, so I was looking back at the games in 2 years back to back JFK. Uh, I think Coach Angle should have been arrested for child abuse at the time. He gave you 39 carries for 214 yards. They should have took him off in handcuffs after that.
No, he didn't have to be taken off in handcuffs. We was straight. We was straight.
Yeah, I mean 39 carries, man. That's you don't ever hear that anymore.
But at the same time, though, during that, I just told you Philip Buchanan, right? That was the tailback number 34 on their team, who was
Yeah.
the man. You know what I mean? So then, therefore, again, it's like I'm rising to the challenge. What's up? You know what I mean? And that's what that game, because it was like, man, he threw toss pass, and I was like, okay. Then we throw toss pass. You know what I mean? Like, that was a good game. I'll say. I mean, it came down to a field goal with Joe Donnelly kicking the field goal to win. So, yep.
Yeah, that's what I meant. You know what I mean? Like I think that seems to be kind of your theme, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe you're not the first guy picked, but you always end up where you want to be. You know?
Yes, it ends up working out like that.
Yeah, yeah. And not like you're a down the line guy, but you're just not the prototypical, right? You're 6'2",
Uh-huh.
215,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
murdering guys.
That, I mean, yeah, I mean, and then junior year, it was another thing that kind of fueled me going into senior year. There was a couple times to where I ran the ball down to the goal line. The Matt Grenary gets the carry for the touchdown, and it was because I'm getting caught. You know what I mean? And I'm like, all right, that's something that I got to work in. And Coach Smith didn't let it rest either, as oh, did we get there yet, Penny? You're getting caught from behind. So it was like, hey, I gotta work on my speed a little bit, so I ain't got to be handing off carries to other people to get touchdowns.
So I was watching the film. I was watching the highlight film before we got on, and I forget what we call it, like pro or wing or whatever.
Mhm.
And you'd be that motion guy,
Mhm.
and I'd see you bringing a ball down, and like Mickey Curd and Matty G would be back there, and you'd be kicking out the smash back.
Yeah.
You'd carry it down, then they'd put you in the smash back and run belly. Uh, but I will say, towards the end of the season, you end up being the guy getting the carry, right?
Mhm.
So they put somebody else there. So,
Yeah.
um,
No, that used to make me hot, man. It used to make me hot, boy, for real. But I mean, I kind of like tried to look at it like, Matt G is the senior or whatever, So if and then I looked at myself like, hey, if you don't want that to happen, you got to finish runs, buddy. So
yeah. I do remember watching film, and I remember I wouldn't bring it up since you did though. Coach Smith getting on you about popping something against. I think I remember like on Saturday morning against Harding, you popped 2 long runs, and somebody caught you, and I just remember him
that
being
quarterback
him.
did.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
him saying that.
yeah.
So
I forget what his name was. Andre something, number 16.
yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, but nah, I mean, like, yeah, uh, and then again, I'm getting it in the locker room and stuff like that as far as finishing my run. So a senior year, I was like, hey, that's not happening ever again.
Um, Question for you on your junior year. We're playing that playoff game at Fitch against Mooney, the Mud Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Mooney calls that timeout, like I think right before half. Vecchione pulls the old towel trick, wipes his hands off, and then pops out to the outside. I had heard. I'm trying to. I don't. I heard a couple of different things about what happened. Were we like in combo, and somebody was supposed to be out there? Or do you remember that play?
I remember the play, but I don't know. I don't know what defense we were in or nothing. But I, to be honest, man, I didn't. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know like what the heck was going going on, man. You know what I mean? Because I was flipping back and forth. So that I would say on my part, that's where fatigue kicked in, and it was just like I wasn't aware of what was going on.
Oh no, I'm not questioning you because I know the combo coverage. I just
Mhm.
it was I think it was he just kind of popped off. But I was reading an article on there, and Butchie says I was a little confused on how Ursuline wasn't ready for our set in the paper the next day as they cheat. And then OHSA puts in a rule like you on a timeout, you got to go huddle up because of what Mooney did. But
no.
Now, when you think back during those high school days, like what are the in conference games that you enjoy the most, and then is there anybody out of league that you enjoy playing against?
In conference, I would say every time we played Warren Harding, it was always a good game. Who else? I mean, I can't. I don't know if I want. I'm not gonna say Fitch because nah. But I would say Warren Harding out of all of them because I was thinking about that today. Like, regardless of what the score was or whatever, they're gonna go at you for 4 quarters, and then afterwards you're gonna know that you played a football game. So, and then anybody like out of conference, I don't know, maybe Sharon. What was that? What was that dude's name for Sharon, number 4? And he was like sweet.
Well, they had Almarco Jackson, who's a tailback.
That dude right there.
Yeah. And then his brother Marlon.
And then they had a fullback named Stoner. That
Stoner went to Pitt.
That dude. That squad was pretty cool to play against too. So, and then you said a person that I kind of liked playing against.
Well, yeah, all encompassing, because the years have passed. We're all out of our prime, and
right.
Certainly the stories get more fantastic as the decades go on.
Right.
And unless you look back at the film, you don't realize like, oh well, maybe it didn't happen exactly the way that I thought it did. But you got the pedigree and the stats to back up something. You did something at some point. So these are just your memories and the way that you viewed them and what you felt in those moments.
I can't say there was anybody specific that I liked playing against. But no, there's nobody specific that I like playing against. You know what I mean? Because I always had the mindset of I don't care who over there. you know what I mean? I'm gonna try to, get this win, and in the meantime, get some yards out of it too. So,
and then being a back, what was your preference? Was it turf or grass?
Turf all day.
And why is that?
Because it made me faster. Hey, but then I would say we did like playing at Mollenkopf Stadium all the time too. So that was a cool grass stadium that we like playing at. But like you can, and I'm saying that because our senior year we end up playing in another mud bowl in the playoffs, and we lost to a team that I felt we shouldn't have lost against to. But if we would have been on turf, it would have been a totally different ball game. So, but and now that I look at the turf that's out now versus the turf that we played on, that's crazy. I would have loved to play on the turf that they got today.
Hey, you're muted, Ron.
Sorry, when I was coming through, YSU still had the AstroTurf that first year,
right.
And they put in another surface which was supposed to be a little bit better, but I remember we couldn't afford the Newmans across your elbow, so me and my guys, we cut off church socks at the toe and put them on so you didn't get those strawberries.
I never when we played on that turf, I never used to like anything on my arms or anything like that. So I mean, I used to come up with them things all the time, man, and that used to hurt. That used to hurt all the time.
Because I don't know if it was the fall, but after seeing like Patton and those guys that they were our guys that got the ball all the time, so they would get those turf burns,
Mm-hmm.
and you see that you remember that old spray in the white can. Once you saw how a guy reacted to hitting that, I'm like, I'm coming out here in sleeves or something on my elbow.
Oh, let me tell you, like I played in the North South game at Massillon, and I don't know if you guys remember Chris Chambers. Chris
Hmm.
Chambers went to Wisconsin. Like we're out there, like going over plays and stuff like that, and I'm talking about the quarterback from St. Ignatius throws this pass and he dives for it. First day, dives for it, and I'm talking about skin from his elbow to his wrist, gone. I was like, man, see, I was like, no, 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 we ain't doing that one. So that's my memory of other guys having those cherries like that. He needed a skin graft after that, buddy.
I, um, so talk a little bit about. I know we touched on it, but your path to Ohio State and maybe like your transition there. Um, was that your first choice? Was that were you excited? I mean, obviously you got to be excited about going there. Was that your ideal school to go to?
In my eyes, it was. Because again, they had no problem featuring a big back. And that's exactly what I was. So you know, when I felt like, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go down here. And again, the competitors' attitude of, I mean, I don't care who down here, you know what I mean? I'm gonna go down here and, do what I gotta do, maybe crack the line up and get some carries. And when I get down there, I'm like, okay. So I walk into a room and it's like 12 dudes, 12 Sean Penny sitting in there, you know what I mean? And I'm like, all right, how's this gonna pan out? And then they had me playing, end up putting me at fullback. So in that, the fullback at that time at Ohio State was not one that was going to be carrying the ball all like that. He would carry the ball, in certain situations, but not, be the feature guy. So I mean, more than anything, you were a battering ram. So, but because back then they running blast, ISOs, and things like that. So, I try to look at it like, all right, let me just play this position and get on the field. You know what I mean? So, as a freshman, getting out there just trying to letter. At that point in time, my goal was, hey, let me get this jacket, this Letterman jacket over here. You know what I mean? So, um, I ended up end up lettering, but it was not a happy time at all. Just because man, I'm surrounded by 10 or 12 dudes that's the man from where they come from, and you know, I'm playing a position that I don't want to play. But at the same time, I'm looking at it like, man, I got a scholarship. They paying my school, so let me let me suck it up and go out here and just play. But it was not a fun time at all.
It's so like what um your freshman year, you're a true freshman, right?
Yes,
And I remember watching, you're getting time. Did you end up lettering that freshman year?
yeah, I did. I did. I mean, I think what my freshman year I had 6 carries for 54 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So I had an opportunity to score, but that didn't quite happen. So
And then so going into your sophomore year, we had a conversation just talking about kind of like what your expectations were going into that year. Maybe talk a little bit about that sophomore experience.
Well, after my freshman year, I'm like, I had a guy named Matt Keller in front of me, so it was like, he was gonna be graduating here pretty soon, and so it was like, let me let me go ahead and embrace my position at fullback because it didn't seem that it was changing none whatsoever. So I then tried to embrace the position. So throughout, you know, we went through winter conditioning, then we get in the spring ball, everything is good, and then we get to the summer, and you know, again, I told you like your fullback back then was not. You had to be ready for being a battering ram, which I was not. Um, so therefore, they wanted me to like block a certain way, like bring your hands and then bring your face mask into the block. So while I was trying to do that, I ended up fracturing the C1. What I know now is the C1 vertebrae. Um, so we were in summer camp, and I'm in my room, and I tried to lift my torso, and I couldn't. I had to put my hand behind my head to lift my head up to get out of bed. You know what I mean? So once I got up, I was cool, but I didn't have full range of motion in my head, so of my neck. So I was going through practices during the summer, still trying to again establish myself. Um, I went through the West Virginia game was the first game of my sophomore year, and then I got through that no problem, and then we played Toledo the next game at home, and I was in there, and it was like fourth quarter with I say a minute or so to go, and they called 23 ISO, and at that time I was not my neck was like hurting so bad, so they called 23 ISO, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't want to do this, and thankfully enough, um, they let the clock run out, and I finally got over myself and let somebody know what was going on, and then from there it was just like, don't play no more. I was not don't play no more. I was going to practices with the yellow jersey on, which I mean, when you got the yellow jersey on, man, you sitting on the sideline, don't nobody even really want to talk to you, nothing. So it was like, I end up going to get an MRI. Dr. Lombardo called me in, and like he didn't even really talk to me. He called my mom first, and then my mom said we gotta go down there and have a conversation with the doctors, and then they ended up telling me that my career was pretty much over because I fractured my C1 vertebrae. So you know I wasn't trying to accept that, but they wouldn't let me do anything. So I was just kind of left with myself, with my thoughts and things like that.
When you're touching on that, because that I think sometimes when, and I'll put myself in the perspective of a fan,
Hmm.
you people look at what is marketed as big time college athletics.
Hmm.
These are the dreams that we have as young boys of wanting to make it to that level, but there's that transition from the team family atmosphere that you come out of in little league, high school, and then you're all of a sudden immersed in this environment where it's business. Really,
Hmm.
it's not about who your brother was, where you come from. It's, hey, are you prepared? What
Hmm.
do you know? How are you getting yourself ready? um what are you doing with your reps, right? So there's that adjustment that you have to make, shed in that high school mindset.
Right.
And then when you settle in and that competitive spirit kicks in, and you're taking your game up that next notch because you're in that environment of dogs, really. You know, everybody is somebody when you come to an Ohio State, and you
Right,
have to reestablish the pecking order.
right,
Um, you know, as you're making those adjustments to position change, you know, the rigors of college football, and then finding that success, getting on the field, being out there. That's big time because
right,
you're one of the 1%. You know what I
right.
mean? And then to endure an injury like that, like I'm listening to you, the competitor in you is still telling you, well, hey, get out there. I'm not gonna really say anything about how I'm feeling right now because you still want to chase that dream.
Right.
So when you get to that point where the doctor is making clear to you the gravity of this injury, you know um, what what do you have to go through, as an individual, because you said, the yellow jersey, and as players we're superstitious because when somebody's down and out, it's almost like, for lack of a better description, that military experience where you can't allow yourself to feel
Right.
because you don't want to get distracted off that competitive edge for what you might be doing or up against as a player.
Mhm.
Can you talk about some of the things that you have to go through, uh, dealing with that challenge and reassessing who you are and what you're gonna do, and just kind of coping with understanding that it's not going to end the way that you wanted it to end ultimately.
I mean, it was a very dark place, to be honest. I mean, like you're down there, you're down in Columbus by yourself. Your support system is at home. You know what I mean? And I was telling Dallas how I lived with two other football players. So as they're going through the daily routine of which you used to go through, it's like, damn, I'm sitting at home with nothing to do because I mean I wouldn't allow myself to go to the facility at all. And they tried to bring me in and uh, be a trainer, so to speak. Like I was signing off on guys' workout cards. You know what I mean? So I felt I understand they still giving me a scholarship, and it's like, but I'm over here signing the workout cards of the guys that I came in with. I'm signing the cards of like guys that have been there that and man, I'm like I felt less than, you know what I mean, when I went in there, you know what I mean? Like they ain't looking at me as one of the guys no more. I'm the guy that signed, hey, can you come see my last set so you can sign off on my card? So I kind of like I just kind of stopped going over there, man. You know what I mean? And it was like I didn't want to talk about it. I kind of shied away from people. You know what I mean? I flunked out of school too. You know what I mean? I stopped going to classes and stuff like that, and got a job at Farmore and was working there. And it was like I was working there and nobody from school called me. You know what I mean? And then eventually I did end up getting one call. Darren Meeker, he was our academic advisor. He was like, "Hey man, you only got a couple more classes that you need to finish. Why don't you come get this finished and so you can graduate?" And I like, and then after Darren Meeker called, my position coach called, and I'm like, I I felt again like another number, and like how you said, you know, things turn into a business and that family. I I quickly learned how much of a business it is. You know what I mean? And it's not. And I was telling Dallas like I'm kind of jealous of guys nowadays how they have that personal relationship with their head coaches. You know what I mean? Well, some of them, anyways. I would have liked to have that. We had that at Ursuline, and I'm thinking it's gonna be like that when I got down here. Like, nah, that's not it. I I can probably count on one hand how many times I talked to Coach Cooper when I was there. You know what I mean? So, but it was a very very hard transition, man. Like, you know, just because again, everywhere I went, you're Sean Penny, the football player. It got to the point where after I stopped playing football, I wouldn't put that I play football on my resume, so people can start seeing me for me and the skills that I'm bringing forth. But my wife was like, Sean, you have to put that on your resume. You know what I mean? Um, so it is like for a while I shied away from anything football related. You know what I mean? Not I never didn't want to talk about it. Don't like till this day. I do not let anybody know that I play for Ohio State because I am going to because I mean I feel my career did not end the way I wanted it to. You know what I mean? And it's like for me to talk about it, it'd be like it just brings up memories. You know what I mean? I'm like, dang man. But then I try to look at it as not very many people get to experience what I experienced, So I try to take the good with the bad. But if somebody asks me if I play football, I tell them no. I mean, my wife and my daughter especially, they absolutely do not like when I do that. Because a little old lady will be in the store and she'll be looking up at me and she'll like, "Did you play football?" No, ma'am, I did not. You know what I mean? Just because I don't want to talk about it or whatever. Like yesterday, I was at a store and I had my license plate says Ohio State fan 36. You know what I mean? What does the 36 stand for? I'm like, here we go. You know what I mean? I always shake my head to it So me getting hurt has made me to the point where I shy away from telling anybody I play football. But if anybody knows that I play football, it's a totally different ball game.
And it's some of that because being here in Columbus, when you live in this community, you realize how powerful that brand is in
Mm-hmm.
this city.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it is it the part that you don't want to have to explain to someone who may not understand that process and all the work and the toil that goes into it,
Mm-hmm.
or is it the part of it where it's cut short where you had more to give if things had just gone another way?
I mean it's more so one of those where like if they ask me did I play football, yes. Who did you play for? Ohio State. What's your name? Sean Penny. I'm like these people ain't gonna know who I am. You know what I mean? Like and then it's like oh this is my thought. I'm like oh another has been. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of why I don't like really even talk about it. But then I mean like when I hear people talking about me, I'm sitting there. I have a smile on my face, like, okay, I really do mean something, as far as football goes and stuff. So I mean, I just sometimes look at it like, man, I'm just another cat that was playing football and got hurt, and and now his career's over. So on to the next.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I don't know how many careers end the way that we want them to.
Mm-hmm.
You, you know what I mean? And I think that I think that's the trap of athletics is, for me, on a infinitely smaller scale, you get hurt, and it never. I didn't think it was an ego, but it never occurred to me that I was never going to play sports.
No, because
Or
when people used to be like, "Hey man, make sure you get your grades. You can get hurt." Like I wasn't even thinking like. I mean, I'm gonna get my grades, but I wasn't thinking like I'm gonna get hurt. You know what I mean?
right, it's like it's just that, and so I think that's the trap of it's not just the love of the game, but it's also the identity that's tied to it,
Mm-hmm.
and what happens when that's no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the really mentally emotionally difficult thing, but the flip side of it is like it seems like all those things that helped you come out of it were probably learned from athletics too.
Mm-hmm. It was.
Toughness. Yeah.
I mean, it was. I mean, like, a class that I was taking down on Ohio State was one of those classes that was helping you to take the skills that you learn in football and use them in, corporate world. You know what I mean? And I mean, they call them transferable skills. And it's like, again, when they said that back to me, I'm like, transferable skills. Like, who wants to know about defensive coverages and shit, stuff like that. So it's like, so I mean, but once I've gotten into the corporate world, it's like you really don't. I mean, you really get to see how many people are not used to being on a team, who does not know how to be a team player, and you know what I mean, who does not know how to communicate, who does not know how to, like, you know operate in a fast-paced situation. Hey, if anything changes, people be like, oh, they lose their minds. You know what I'm saying? And I just had a conversation with somebody like Friday, like, hey, I'm used to working in this fast-paced environment, because it's like, hey, I be sitting down there, the quarterback be under the center, and the next thing you know, it's like blue, 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 check, check, check. You know what I mean? Like, it's another play, and they were like blown away by me using that football analogy to apply it to the workplace. So I mean, it took a long time for me to get to the place where I'm comfortable with myself. But I will say, I am not one that is gonna make it known that I play for Ohio State. I'm gonna play the back. I'm not going, because there are situations where I find myself with people that I play football with, you know what I mean? And that's the first thing coming out their mouth. And it's like, hey, you can have that. I'm going over here and I'm going to sit. When my son plays football, I sit at the top of the stadium. I don't sit around nobody. And, it's like, I told Dallas this time, I was like, man, having me do this podcast is like pulling me out of the shadows, man, because I'm down here in Westerville. I'm raising my my kids, and going about everyday life, and I'm cool with it.
Well, but there's an importance to what you've experienced, because
Yeah.
regardless of whether you would have, you know, been an all world Hall of Fame level player, or it went the way that it went,
Mm-hmm.
there's knowledge that you got out of that.
Yeah.
It built you into a more resilient man
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, and then you're able to understand angles, and probably in those moments where you weren't able to practice or be a part of the competition anymore, you can see things from a different perspective.
Right.
And then for all of us, every last one of us that starts out on this endeavor, you getting an end date somewhere, some way, somehow.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then there's
Right.
going to be life after that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately for you, you just got yours a little bit more early than some others. And then you look at the guy who has the high school career ending injury, or gets in trouble, or gets sidetracked with something else. The guys
Right.
that have to raise children and don't get to go on and explore that prowess. you know they would look at your situation and go, man, you got to put that scarlet and gray on, you got to
Right.
run out of the tunnel in the shoe.
Mm-hmm.
What's that like? You know what I mean? So so life is about lenses, it's about perspective, it's about framing. And then, for what you did, you definitely got more than enough evidence to show, you were one of those all-time greats. You're a guy who deserves to have his name brought up and be remembered, because when you were at your best and the health was there, you're at the top of the class. You know what I mean? And that's something to be proud of. That's something to hold up and hold out there. And I understand that, you may not want that spotlight of the attention of that's unwarranted, because it leads to endless questions that
Mhm.
there's no perfect answer for.
Right.
But even with that, that's just manhood, that's just life. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah,
those good things in that, the moments of things that are uncomfortable. And then, with our sport, that's really what it's about. When you're doing gassers, wind sprints, and lifting, and you're preparing for the hard knocks that's going to come your way. You know what I mean?
yeah. So I mean, and it's like you said, I I had an experience to where I get to share it with my son, more so. And it's like some of the stuff that I talk about now, he's like he don't even get it. You know what I mean? And it's like I'm seeing 5 steps ahead of what can be, and I have to sometimes dial it back because I'm like, man, I gotta let him go through these steps and not let him skip no steps. So when he does and if he gets to that point, I mean, he can appreciate it. You know what I mean? But I mean, I'm always thinking, I'm always like how you said, did anybody give me any game? I'm talking about any young dude that's willing to listen. I'm like, hey, I'm giving them the game. Um, so I always try to get the ear of some young person, you know. But the key is, and I don't know if this is bad on my part, but it's like if they're willing to listen. You know what I mean? Like when I was coming up, whether I didn't want to hear it or not, it's like I'm gonna listen. And then later on down the line, what OG was saying over here, you know, presents itself to me, and I'm like, I'm glad I listened to what he or she was saying. So
No, you're 100% right. We had this conversation talking about coaching. You dabbled in coaching a little bit with our man Felix, and
mhm,
I think that one of those skills in life that is an accelerator, right? That moves people along the path quicker is listening to people who have gone down the road that you want to go down.
right.
Surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you.
Hmm.
Um, and and it just seems like that's a lost skill, but yeah, I think you're 100% right. It's you can't invest in somebody who's unwilling to listen or take kind of some advice or thoughts. I
Well,
think
I
you're
mean,
100% right.
there has been situations to where like um people have said, hey, you need to go check this dude out, or you need to watch this dude, and I'm again from afar, just watching, like I'm sure people used to do me. I might be at the mall and how I'm carrying myself, people are watching all the time. You know what I mean? So, with certain people, I do the same thing. And then they'd be like, man, you need to go talk to this person. You need to go talk to that person. I'm like, nah, I'm cool. You know what I mean? Nope, nope. So, but and like my son and his little friends, man, there's some he got some friends that are gifted, you know what I mean? And they can go either way.
Yeah.
They can go either way, but I'm constantly in their ear. You know what I mean? This is a kid, the kid that I'm talking about, I'm constantly in his ear. Don't be dumb. Don't be going out here getting in trouble or not, things like that. But it's up to them. They have to go out and experience things themselves, and hopefully us as OGs or parents or whatever have gifted them with, the mindset of going out here and doing the right thing.
You want to check out a couple minutes of film here?
Yeah, let me see it.
All right. Let's do this. We'll do full screen.
No doubt.
All right, you guys can see this?
Yes, sir.
All right. So this is from your junior year, and I think this is Warren Harding.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna let it run a little bit.
Yeah. Hey, that. Chat Weathers.
It's Chester Weathers. Hey, Ron Allen, this is what it's like to have a kicker.
Matt
And
G.
there's Matty G. So I'm gonna go to that Fitch section
Mm-hmm.
that we were talking about. Maybe just let that whole game kind of run.
This was Camuso too, wasn't it?
Oh, Camusa. He was like, that's a name from the past. He was like 6'7" tight end, wasn't he?
Yep. He got punished though too.
What's that?
No, I'm talking trash. I was like, he got it too. He was talking trash. There you go.
I think he was there.
Yep.
See, there it is. Short toss to the short side of the field.
Yes, sir. Yep. That counter,
guys,
was terrible, bro.
Yep. Catching a little bit, and I think this one pops. Whoop.
Yep. Did we raise the roof? We didn't raise the roof that time, huh?
There's Matty G back in his glory.
Mm-hmm.
Counter tray. Chet, my man Chet.
Mm-hmm.
You see him or talk to him?
Nah, not as like every. I would say every 3-4 years we might cross paths or something. Bill Breezy.
For Breezy, he's down in Florida.
Oh, he is?
Yeah. You know, he was like he's a sheriff's deputy. Could you imagine that?
Shut your face. Hey, Eddie Ross. Hey, listen, I was walking into the Ohio State game last year, and I was like, I think that's Eddie Ross right there. And then next thing you know, he was like, Sean Penny. I was like, that's my quarterback.
Eddie Ross, man. He was like that quarterback from the program.
Hey, yep. Hey, I absolutely loved when he played quarterback, though. I loved it. Oh, boo.
Yeah, Boardman. So this Lancaster game, this is the game that Coach Angle said was the greatest game in high school football history.
Mm-hmm.
You guys went down, spent the night down there, right?
No, we did not. We traveled.
No?
We went down there that day. We left early and went down there. Hey, man, even when I was getting inducted into Ursuline's Hall of Fame, Coach Smith brought this up.
There you go.
Coach Smith brought this up too. He was like, man, it was one of the best runs that I've ever seen. That's in this game I got.
Is it the one where you're down?
Well, yeah, not down. I caught myself.
No, you're right. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No,
it looks like you're down.
Yeah, it looks like I'm down. I caught myself and then took it to the crib. Yep. Nah, I mean, and it's like in that instance right there, it was like, some of them drills Coach Smith had us doing when we kept, like, you would carry the ball, touch the line, switch hands or whatever. I was like, man, that Coach Smith, man. Like that's what that drill was. Look at Chet.
This guy went down. Their tackle, Ben Gilbert. He went down to Ohio State.
Okay.
Started 4 years for him. I remember playing against him.
I ain't even realize.
Yeah.
Look at it. Nah, this game right here was. There
Mike
you go. There you go, Mike. You know why he did that, right?
No.
Because I think the game before we were raising the roof, and we got a flag for it. So we were just going in there and then laying the ball on the turf right there. Look at him.
Run those NFL laps.
Yeah. Nah, this game right here, boy.
Is that catch in overtime that you win? That you get?
I don't think
This might be the run right here.
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
Nah, that's crazy, bro.
You didn't get caught from behind on that one, huh?
Oh, I did not. Jaren.
Oh, Matt G. Hello.
Hey, what if concussion protocol was in back then like it is today?
Yeah. I'd probably only play 2-3 plays a game.
This you get you get a little out. This is like a little 3-layered out here.
Oh, no, this ain't the catch.
Now this is the one coming up because you motion out.
No, right here, right down the gipper. Boom. That is crazy, bro.
That's the game, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Man, that's crazy. No, I have the radio, the radio version of that. So like when the game playing, they talking over the radio for that one.
Do you?
Yeah. Yep. Oh, VHS. For sure.
Yeah, those things start not working.
Mm-hmm. For
they
sure.
Go bad.
No, I got a stack of them over here.
Yeah, man. Well, I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed, like I said from the start, and I meant it, and so I enjoyed playing with you, and it's it was. I was thinking about this today. Like, I guess you were probably the first person that I knew personally that went on to kind of that stardom piece and having those opportunities. So it's kind of a different view than somebody maybe that you played against or somebody that was older than you or younger than you. You know what I mean? So, I just always appreciated your style of play, the ultra teammate in you, and being able to be part of it with you at Ursuline. So, I'm glad you came out of the shadows.
I'm telling you, man. Listen, I'm down here. Hey, my neighbors joke with me about even coming outside sometimes. So no, I be, I don't know, man. It's just, I like to, let my kids do what they do and try not to be in their way and let them, have their spotlight to themselves, man. So.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we could shine that spotlight on you, and because you know what, you were a great player, you did have a great career, and you know what, probably most importantly in all this is you have a great career now, you have a great family, you're doing great things in life.
Well, yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I enjoy playing with you as well, man. And it's like part of my drive was not letting you guys down, you know. So
And that six looked a little fit right there when seeing some of those runs. You know, bottle up some of that energy. I'm sure you don't feel that way when you get out of bed in the
oh,
morning these days.
trust me. I mean, like I told Dallas, like after I hurt, got diagnosed with my neck or whatever, I started playing basketball a lot. And then honestly, man, a couple months after that, I tore my ACL. So it was like, man, I can't do nothing. So, and now it's like, man, when I can tell you when it's about to rain, when the weather about to change, because I feel it. I'm telling you.
uh, if you could get in that time machine, get some of that energy, that
Mhm.
that peak performance, that great ambition, representing the Penny name and all that means to the East Side and to Youngstown. If you had that one more down for yourself,
Mhm.
where would you do that at? What would the scenario be for you? How would you set that up?
I mean, it would definitely be with my Ursuline family, man, because I mean, I feel like that was my family. You know what I mean? My football family. Um, Stanball Stadium under the lights. Um, let's just stick with the Warren Harding, the Warren Harding duo. Have Vanessa Provic come back. You know what I mean? Um, ha, I would have liked to play against Maurice Claret too. Have him come back and we have it out under the lights at Stanball, man. You know, hey, and I don't mind. We can sprinkle a toss pass in there every now and again.
Is 71 there?
71.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's my Ursuline family. Yes.
oh, okay, okay. I just want to make sure that 71 is
Yes.
gonna get out there.
Nah, man. Hey, we want everybody to come back. Hey, and Dallas got to lead the way on some of them tosses though. I can't do it without them.
Oh, man, it was really fantastic getting to meet you and get to know a little bit more about you. That name always rang out, even though I was gone out of the area. I
Mhm.
stayed following what was happening. Was always aware of what you were doing on that field and how well that you did it. So to get that hour and a half with you,
Mhm.
learn a little bit more about you, get your perspective. It was a pleasure for me to hear that from you, man.
Well, likewise, man. I'm glad that you guys invited me to come on because again, man, like I said, I would be down here just to myself, not talking to nobody about no football. So, but I and like I said, I do like talking about the my experiences. You know what I mean? With those that understand it. So, it's cool. I thank you for having me on.